The Aringa County South Member of Parliament, York Alioni Odria, put President Museveni on the spot on the second day of the National Resistance Movement retreat in Chankwanzi on why he had not reined in the corruption in Parliament. 9 men, 8 men, 7 men. Alioni was talking about a corruption scandal in which Museveni pointed out at the State of the Nation address in 2024 that he had found out the members of Parliament involved in inflating the national budget in collusion with officials in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development.
My question is, since you proved that, what have you done? Why don't you arrest these corrupt people with evidence?
His concern was both wrong and right. It was wrong because 3 MPs, the Luengo Woman Member of Parliament, Sisi Namuju, Bunyole West Member of Parliament, Yusuf Mutembuli, and the Busiki County MP Paul Akamba, were arrested shortly after.
She was a resident of the prison for some months. Is she here? Where is she? Don't hide. Where is Namuju?
However, Alioni was right because in January, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions set the trio free as the charges were withdrawn. It is until yesterday that Museveni disclosed how the cases were dropped.
They were arrested. Namuju, Akamba, and so on. And many of them repented. And once you repent, there is forgiveness.
Governance analysts argue that the revelation has vindicated them of their long-held stand that Museveni is responsible for the corruption that has gone over the roof.
President Museveni cannot fight corruption. They have no intention of fighting corruption. And I've been saying corruption is the very, very engine that brings it into power.
They are concerned that the protection of the corrupt has destroyed and eroded public trust in the government institutions.
This directly undermines, for instance, the judiciary which has been prosecuting these people. The anti-corruption court now becomes almost toothless, because if the judiciary had the opportunity to deal with these grand-scale thieves, and now the president comes and orders for the charges to be dropped, it really undermines the whole question of access to justice.
The Constitution sets up multiple institutions financed through the public purse, whose money, given the directives, could be going to waste. Among the anti-corruption agencies are the Inspectorate of Government, Criminal Investigations Directorate, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Anti-Corruption Division of the High Court, and the Office of the Auditor General.
The Parliament is the one that is supposed to protect those institutions. So you can't have a dysfunctional Parliament or a captured Parliament and you think that the DPP can exercise independence. Or you have a dysfunctional captured Parliament and you think that the courts can exercise independence.
The analysts insist that Museveni should have followed the right procedure by waiting for the cases to be brought to their logical conclusion.
By law, the fountain of honor has a right to give pardon. But he gives that pardon to a convicted criminal. You get it?
Like these politicians who steal, who influence and commit crimes under our law, the president has no right to say, I have forgiven you, because you are supposed to be subjected to the due process. Because otherwise, why doesn't he forgive all the others?
The analysts argue that the practice lays bare that the government has never been committed to the fight against corruption, despite the talk about having zero tolerance for the vice. It is perceived that the law targets only the least powerful who have to face its full weight.
Because he's interested in their political support, he don't have leverage over them. So he basically has to pretend like he's against corruption. I remember in one of the clips he says, I have zero tolerance to corruption. And I said, this is, you have zero tolerance to corruption, and then you have forgiven people who stole?
The 2025 Corruption Perception Index report released by Transparency International indicates that Uganda maintained its position among the 50 most corrupt countries in the world. A 2023 report of the Inspectorate of Government showed that Uganda was losing 9 trillion shillings annually, an equivalent of the allocated human capital development budget covering the same period, which covers sectors on education, health, water and environment. Despite the failures in the fight, anti-corruption crusaders insist that the fight should continue. Jackson Onyango, NTV.